I'd like to call the village board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, June 20th, 2017 to order with roll call, please.
Betts.
Here.
Kostler.
Here.
Cavalli.
Here.
Kraus.
Here.
McAlpine. Here. Weinhammer.
Here.
And Koenig.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. We had nobody officially sign in. Is there anybody that has arrived that would like to address the village board? We'll go ahead and close open forum. I have two things on my mayor's report. First is a recognition of our former village clerk, Nancy Bragg. She is unable to be with us this evening. We're going to reschedule that for later evening. And on another note, I was asked to testify in support of the Mercy Healthcare, that new micro hospital that's going on the corner of 31 and 3 Oaks Road. The village board had unanimously endorsed that project, and I testified in support of that today. And while we're sitting here getting our pictures taken, there was a press release that the board granted the approval of the hospital there. So that's one step in the right direction. That'll help the village of Cary tremendously. So we'll continue to watch that.
There's still, just so the board knows, there's still a future process with this to get final approval.
I have one proclamation this evening. A National Recreation and Parks Month, July 2017. Whereas parks, recreation activities, and leisure experiences provide opportunities for young people to live, grow, and develop into contributing members of society. And whereas parks and recreation creates lifelines and continued life experiences for older members of our community. And whereas generating opportunities for people to come together and experience a sense of community through fun recreational pursuits. And whereas park and recreational agencies provide outlets for physical activities, socializations, and stress-reducing experiences. And whereas parks, grounds, nature trails, open spaces, community and cultural centers, and historic sites make communities attractive and desirable places to live, work, play, and visit in a manner that contributes to our ongoing economic vitality. And parks, greenways, and whereas parks, greenways, and open spaces provide a welcome respite from our fast-paced, high-tech lifestyles while simultaneously protecting and preserving our natural environment. And whereas employees and volunteers in public parks and recreational facilities keep these parks and facilities clean, safe, and enjoyable for visitors, organize youth, adult, senior, family, and community activities, provide educational programming, advocate for more open space and better trails, and fundraise for local improvements. And whereas parks and recreation activities touch the lives of individuals, families, groups, and the entire community, which positively impacts upon the social, economic, health, and environmental quality of our community. Therefore, I, Mark Koenig, Mayor of the Village of Cary, do hereby proclaim July as Recreation and Parks Month in the Village of Cary and encourage all citizens to celebrate healthy, active lifestyles by participating in their choice of recreation and park activities, dated this 20th day of June, 2017. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 1 through 4 and 6 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Betts.
Yes.
Kostler.
Yes.
Cavalli.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Weinhammer.
Yes.
Thank you. And now, returning to number 5 of the consent agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 10.32, Parking, Section 10.32.005, Parking Prohibited.
So moved.
Second.
Eric. Chief, you tag in on this one too?
Absolutely. I'll stand by.
What you have before you is a recommendation for an amendment to the ordinance related to prohibiting parking on Prairie. We were asked to look at this as it relates to the condition that exists at 338 West Main. I had sent out inquiries to everyone that has a direct impact on that. And interestingly enough, only one residence has a Prairie address. All the rest of them have either a Krenz or a West Main address that are directly impacted by this change. The other thing that you should have a copy of the letter that was sent and then the response. And then there's a diagram in the packet that relates to identifying restricted parking and parking that would be allowed on street, indicated by red for restricted, blue for allowed, and that is assuming that the ordinance was enacted, because that would be the west side of Prairie. There's a couple considerations that we made in terms of suggesting that it be the west side, not the east side. That is, number one, that vehicles coming off of West Main Street would be carrying some speed, and we looked at that factor as it related to restricting parking on Krenz as well. So it would hopefully diminish the possibility of vehicles having to make fast decelerations or movements coming off of West Main and then encountering a vehicle that's parked or coming across if they encounter another vehicle going the opposite way. The other thing I think that is important to consider here, and there are factors in aggravation and factors in mitigation. One of the factors in mitigation would be that at 338 West Main, that garage basically has a zero setback for the sidewalk. And if you park on the skirt or driveway for the garage, that you de facto create a violation because you're blocking a sidewalk. But I did consult with Brian Simmons in regards to the code requirement for parking, and private residence only requires 2 spots, and that garage is a 2-car garage at that location. I don't know the condition inside the garage, or an individual can park a vehicle within the garage, but it meets the code requirements then and now related to the accessible or required parking in that area. So I would entertain any questions you might have. I can turn it over to Director Morimoto, and he can explain his PowerPoint presentation he has here, if you wish.
What we have here are the current existing conditions, and this photo from a street level just depicts the conditions and the setbacks of the garages for 338 West Main, which is looking south, the garage on the left side. And as you can see on the opposite side of the street, a similar condition exists for the opposite side of the roadway as well for that driveway. This is the recommended configuration, so the red are where parking restrictions between May 1st and August 31st currently exist. And then the blue would be where parking would be permitted with the revised amendment to the ordinance. There's still some segments of red, and those would be the statutory no parking limits in front of the driveways and within, I believe it's 30 feet of the stop sign. If you were to consider the allowing the parking on the east side, this is the configuration that would result. As you can see, same thing. There's the restrictions at the intersection and then in front of those driveways. The picture shows approximately what would happen when a car is parked on the east side of the roadway. And if a car were to be waiting southbound to turn left onto West Main at the stop sign, as you can see, there's not sufficient room for a car to inbound make that maneuver. That was just one of the factors in consideration. It's not normally an issue, especially with the very low volume of this roadway during normal times of the year, but it does obviously become more of a factor when the baseball diamonds are in use and you have a significant number of cars going to and from that location before and after a practice or a game. But either way, either side, though, that's the configuration that could be utilized with the direction of the board.
We would normally consider restricting the side of the street that would have fire hydrants, but in this particular instance, there's no fire hydrants on either side of the street, so that was not a factor that was required. And these restrictions that were put in place from May 1st to August 31st were enacted either in 92 or 93, and they've been in place since that time. The other part of that equation is I don't know when the resident at 338 West Main moved there, so I couldn't tell you if they moved in and then they were enacted, or if they were enacted and then they moved in, number one. So it was a condition that existed. But I had one more one more point to make, and I can't remember it now, and I guess that's because I'm getting old. That's what it was, is the restrictions still exist in regards to the winter restrictions. So for the months of December, January, and February, vehicles couldn't be parked on the street overnight during those time periods as well. So, I'm sorry, I told you I'd entertain questions, and I lied. So now I'll entertain questions.
I had a question for Eric. Are you saying there's a difference between whether you allow parking on the west versus the east side? This picture here, you're saying that inbound traffic would be obstructed if they parked on the east side? Is that right? Or
Correct. Obviously, only when there's another car trying to exit Prairie onto West Main, so stopped at the stop sign. Because that first parking space, even within, beyond the 30-foot requirement from the stop sign, that would be just barely a
Couldn't
car length
squeeze through.
beyond. So it's a very narrow roadway. When the curbs were put in, I'm not sure what year that was done, but obviously there was an attempt to give a little more room as much as they could, but it's not a very wide indentation and widening of the roadway there. It's still far narrower than most conditions we see off of a main road. And obviously, flipping it to the other side, there would never be a car parked on that corner, so that even if a car stopped at that stop sign, you would have the full lane width to enter in and negotiate around the car, whether it had speed through the turn or from a stop condition.
And what's located on the far north part of Prairie is the District 26 Transportation Garage/Yard. So you have, for probably a month, buses that are traveling regularly down Prairie.
Well, that was my question that I had with the regards to the bus transportation or the transportation going back and forth, because that's pretty much 10 months out of the year. If there's parking on one side of the street, is there going to be ample room for buses to get through?
Yes, there would be. If there's cars parked on both sides of the street, it would probably be very difficult for the bus to maneuver. But again, without the baseball field in use, and the limited number of houses on that block, I'd imagine historically there has not been too much of a conflict, or I would have probably heard a comment from the transportation service of the buses.
And we consulted the bus service about this.
Yeah, and they didn't really have an opinion one way or the other, to be perfectly honest with you. And I don't have a very much, one of those factors in mitigation are that there wasn't very much of a traffic crash history in that area.
So if I'm understanding correctly, they can park there all the other months of the year except for overnight in the winter months. However, during the baseball season, they're not allowed to park on both sides of the street,
Correct.
but typically they can park on both sides of the street.
After August 31st, they would be allowed to park on both sides of the street. And our suggestion is that they would be, same thing after August 31st, but during the time period when you are likely to have higher volumes of people parking there or looking to park there, it would be restricted to that one side. And that's true of the streets in that area, you know, in regards to Krenz and in regards to Siebert. There's a restriction on one side of the street.
But this is a restriction currently on the entire street during those
That's
months.
correct. That's why the suggestion is to allow at least parking on one side of the street. And the side of the street that we're looking at would be the southbound side, which is the west side of the street. And another factor to consider is that cars coming southbound have to stop at a stop sign. There's a four-way stop at Krenz and Prairie. So I would believe that they would be traveling slower than someone coming off of West Main because there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit there. The other part of the equation is that there is no parking on West Main. So anyone that fronts West Main has no parking except in their driveways.
So are there any residents here that live in that street that are affected by it that,
Would like to speak?
yes?
Yeah.
You just come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Robin McCarroll, Chiapetta.
And I'm Lyle Chiapetta, and we live at 338 West Main. And we're the ones that, yes, we moved in when there was still the block on the parking. We're looking to get opportunity to park more than 2 vehicles. We have 3 vehicles right now, and we are blocking across the sidewalk. Occasionally we have 4 and we have people that come over. The school and the buses and all that stuff, as you've already mentioned, really, they're not traveling that much this is a baseball block, right? So there is the same problems that you were more or less mentioning 8 months out of the year, and there haven't been any issues. All we're looking is to rescind the seasonal blockage for us in front of our house. For some reason, though, and I understand the value of making the right-hand turn coming off of West Main, but you guys are offering, in the one scenario, to give the parking to the neighbor across the street who hadn't even asked for it. So we understand that these are not our spaces. We're not going to own the spaces. Everybody can park there. It's open. We're just trying to get off our driveway and make it a little safer for us without having to cross the street.
There's one other thing that I just would add that I don't think anyone has really mentioned. When we moved into the house, the woman who used to own the house, and I think y'all probably knew her, Kay Zito, she had a beauty shop in our house, and she couldn't get her patrons to be able to park and come use her facilities during the baseball seasons, because there was no parking in front of Maplewood back then. When we bought the house, there also was no parking in front of Maplewood, and there was gravel, and we were allowed to park on that. So there was ample parking. When they went to put the new curbs in, we came to one of these meetings, and we were concerned about losing parking because we have 6 children who, had jobs and were getting cars, and that would mean more cars than just the 2. And they assured us that the reason they were making it a rounded.
It's double the size on our end, if you know the street. It narrows right past our house, but in front of our house and right across from us, it is doubly wide.
And they said, well, that would mean that we actually gained a parking space, and so not to be worried at all. And of course, it would make the street prettier and stuff. But when they did that, there was still no parking in front of Maplewood. And so when the baseball season came, of course, there was people looking for parking. But now there is parking in front of Maplewood, so people are able to park for the baseball games over there. There's more parking for them, whereas there wasn't before. For me, I would like to be able to park in front of our house. I occasionally need some help, and it's nice that somebody can come to my house and be able to park in front of my street, not me. I'm a handicapped gal, and during the winter months in particular, it's a little harder for me to get around. So that's kind of why we asked if someone could maybe do this so we wouldn't get ticketed. We've certainly paid enough in tickets just to park in front of the house or have overnight company over the years, and we just wanted to stop doing that. So that's why we asked whether or not you guys would maybe consider removing that, since we're not a business, we're just a home.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're at least looking at one side of the street, so if we have to park on that side of the street, obviously we could and then just cross the street. So 1 is better than none, 2 would be even better. But, we appreciate your time, and that's all we wanted to say, is that we'd like it on our side of the street.
Yeah, I understand. This is kind of a precedent that we just, as the chief had mentioned, we
Sure.
had just approved a very similar situation on Krenz and Carroll Algonquin Road.
Yeah.
Tried to meet everybody's satisfaction.
Yeah.
There was
I don't know any other areas in the area that are seasonal like this. I mean, we're perfectly fine January, February, March, April, May, and then all of a sudden we can't park there anymore.
Yeah, we have the same issue in Brittany Woods
Okay. Yeah.
because of
So,
baseball.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good.
Before you leave, does anybody have any questions for the residents? Are you able to utilize your garage?
Okay, we have 1 car in the garage right now, and for a while, we were parking 3 abreast in our driveway. Cleaning out the car is only it's not 2.5 car garage, it's a 2-car garage. So we've got the snow blower and the lawnmower and everything else on the one side. We've made whatever attempts we could. We've never fit 2 cars in the garage at all, even if we pull everything out. And I don't have a storage shed, and if you notice how our backyard is, there's not even room for, we have like basically no backyard. So right now, we're parking 1 and then 2 across, because my
Well, actually, our
stepdaughter
son
is
is
back up.
he's parking in
Yeah, we
Maplewood
have,
at the moment.
we have his girlfriend
That's
parking
the
her
place
car
to
and
park.
walking from Maplewood. So it's not our goal to have cars lining up and down the road. We just want to be able to get off the sidewalk. if
Well,
possible.
glad that you're utilizing the garage.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you. Is there any other questions for staff?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Eric, I have a question on Seabird. So we allow parking on the east side of the street on Seabird?
Yes, that's
And then
the
what about on
existing
School
condition.
Street?
The School Street, I don't believe, Chief might recall, I don't know if that one has a seasonal restriction on it or not.
But do they allow parking on one or the other side of the street?
I'd have to check, I don't recall that one.
On School Street, Jeff? Wasn't it proposed, did you guys have it on, oh, sorry, I'm looking at Seabird, never mind.
Yeah, school doesn't appear to have restrictions on here. I don't know if we've carried those down.
I believe School Street does have restrictions on one side of the street. I know that they park against the baseball field side when there's baseball in session. So I believe that there's restrictions on the other side. But I'm about 95% certain.
So from that perspective, then it looks like we're prohibiting parking on the west side of the streets. But this, in Prairie Street, we're going to kind of change that precedence and put it on the west side, that we would allow it.
Because of the demand and the volume on this particular intersection, most of the cars that are going towards the ball fields are coming in probably on School or Prairie. Seabird had to look at the ground level aerials, but they may have put it on the hydrant side on that side because of that factor. But also has far less traffic volume, even from, with the demand from the ball fields, just because of the location.
And there's an additional restriction, and I thought it was a humorous sign, so I took a picture of it, I just didn't put it in here, but it says no parking for a certain period of time, then it says 4-hour parking. So I didn't, so there's another restriction for 4-hour parking on Seabird as well.
Yeah, that's for the downtown, right?
So what you're proposing is from a safety standpoint, you feel that the best solution would be to allow the parking on the west side?
Yes, the southbound side or the west side. And it's staying in concert with the precedent that we set on Krenz. And in fact, this particular instance, the street is shorter and there's a 4-way stop at Prairie and Krenz. So it's our belief, or my belief for sure, that people aren't coming off that stop sign as fast. We're coming off of West Main, they're going to be, number one, carrying a little bit more speed. And number two, I do have a concern about the buses negotiating that turn when they're coming in off of Main Street.
Right. Well, that to me is our biggest factor, is the safety issue.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
How are we voting on this? Are we voting on it to keep it when you say?
So how it's
keep it on
presented
the
is
east
to
side?
what the staff is how it's presented right here. There will
Okay.
be no parking on the east side, there would be parking on the west side.
Am I allowed to request to have that option on the west side, as I had
You
indicated in
could,
the
you
email?
could amend the motion to include what you'd like to ask for.
Okay,
You'd have
so-
to amend that and have a second.
I would like to amend the motion to allow for parking on the west side of the street during those months that baseball season is in.
So are you requesting no parking on, or to allow parking on both sides of the street, or have no parking on the west side or the east side, and then no parking on the west?
To allow on the east and the west, then.
Yeah, because this is for the west side, so it would be the
So
east
correct,
side.
so it's in addition to the east side as well.
So both,
Right.
Like this, or the other?
They're both open?
both are just a flip-flop.
You just want to flip it?
To the east side?
That's what you're.
That's fine.
Okay.
But after August 31st, it's allowed on both sides?
That's correct.
I'd be willing to go with the both sides.
Both sides? Okay,
So we have a motion to amend it. Do I have a second?
I just
I'll
want to
second
make
it.
sure, you're
I'll
amending
second
it, Jeff,
We
for
just
both
clear
sides,
which
is that
mo-
correct?
is it
Both sides,
I just want to make
yes.
sure I'm understanding correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to understand. So would this be both sides now for the entire year? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, the way I interpreted what trustee Weinhammer had said, it would be the allowing parking on the west side of the street and no parking on the east side of the street.
However, Jeff said he would be interested in having it on both sides of the street, so I said,
I want to amend it
But
again.
if we already, well, she hasn't really made her motion yet, because it hasn't been seconded
Yeah.
yet, though. So after August 31st, we allow it on both sides of the street. School's in process, buses are coming and going, but there's parking on both sides of the street. So I would be willing, if you amend your motion to make it on both sides, I would second that.
Okay, so I'd like to make an amendment to go ahead and have parking on Prairie Street on the east and the west side of the streets.
Can I,
Oh, sure.
there's a portion that's north of Krenz, that's adjacent to the school, that we didn't change. So that'll be no parking on
That
both
would be
sides.
fine with me.
Okay, okay.
Right, so I need a roll call on the,
Just the amendment.
this is, call roll call on the amendment to allow parking on both sides of the street.
Krenz and West Main. Yep.
Betts?
Yes.
Do folks know what they're voting on
Yeah,
here?
on both sides of the street.
Can I just get one more piece of clarification? So if it is on both sides of the street, there'll still be the regular restriction when you're pulling off a main in case for that parking, so that there is no problems as far as crashes or anything like that?
This would not address that.
Okay, well, that's something we should consider.
But doesn't the state statute mandate that we have a turning radius at that, there has to be,
It's at 30 feet from a stop sign. You can't park on either side of the street, and there's a stop sign at both ends of
at both
the
ends,
streets.
yeah.
Okay,
Here.
Does that address your need? Is your-
yeah, I just want to make sure what we're doing.
Does the rest
Well, I
of the
think
board
that-
understand what we're,
Basically, what we're doing is allowing what we allow after August 31st.
Right, just vacating the
Yeah.
no parking.
Yeah.
Okay. Janice, roll call, please.
For the amendment.
Betts?
Yes.
So this is on the motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
Costler?
Yes.
Cavalli?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
McAlpine?
No.
And now I'll need a roll call for the amended motion.
Betts?
Yes.
Costler?
Yes.
Cavalli?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
McAlpine?
No.
Thank you. The motion passes. Now moving to items for separate action. We have a public hearing this evening. I will entertain a motion to recess the village board meeting to an open public hearing regarding fiscal year 2017 through 2018 Village of Cary appropriation ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Is there anybody here that wants to address the village board in the hearing regarding our appropriations? No one? It's exciting stuff. So can I go ahead and close the?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing due to no participation. And then I need a roll call on that, please.
Betts?
Yes.
Costler?
Yes.
Cavalli?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Thank you. And I will entertain a motion to approve making of the annual appropriation ordinance for the Village of Cary, McHenry County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2017, and ending April 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Hello, Mary.
Hello, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening for approval is the village's annual appropriation ordinance for the current fiscal year ending April 30th, 2018. State statute requires municipalities to adopt and file the appropriation ordinance with the county no later than the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. So for the Village of Cary, that means July 31st. For the benefit of the new trustees, just a little background as to how the appropriation ordinance is developed. It is prepared by using the village's fiscal year 18 operating budget. As the village board is aware, the fiscal year 18 budget was approved last April. To clarify what the difference is between the operating budget and the appropriation ordinance, the village's operating budget is basically a management tool, and it's intended to establish the realistic spending amounts that is intended by the board to provide for anticipated expenditures for the year, both for operations and for capital items. On the other hand, the appropriation ordinance establishes the village's legal spending limit for the fiscal year. In other words, it represents the maximum amount that can be legally spent during the year. Now, in order to ensure that the village has enough, is able to fund any unexpected emergencies or contingency expenses during the year, the operating budgeted expenditures are increased by 5%, and an additional 5% is added to each fund as a contingency item. In order to be prudent and provide adequate authorized limits, the appropriation ordinance should always exceed the operating budget. As always, the village board would always be apprised of any unexpected emergencies that arises during the year that requires spending additional funds. With that said, staff is seeking approval for the appropriation ordinance this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion for Mary? No? Okay, thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Betts? Yes. Cossler?
Yeah.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution awarding a community event grant to the Cary Grove Area Chamber of Commerce for the Main Street Fest in the amount of $8,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a quick overview here, Mayor. The next 4 items here are community event grant program awards that are being recommended. We had discussed these at the last committee of the whole meeting. At that meeting, it was requested that these items be split up for separate votes. So before you are 4 separate grant awards that total $15,000. It is a budgeted item, and it is within the budgeted amount.
I just want to make one statement. I'm going to be voting no on all these tonight. And the reason why is we're facing a huge deficit next year. And I think that that's important that we save those funds for that. And with regards to the Main Street Fest, I think it's a phenomenal fest. I volunteered the past couple of years, and I think it's a great event. But they did profit last year. And the statement was made about saving the money for a rainy day fund. And again, with us facing a deficit next year, I think we need to look at our own rainy day fund. So I just want to let you guys all know that I'll be voting no on all of these.
Any other comments?
I agree with Trustee Cavelli, and I'm just wondering who's going to be voting on this tonight, because there might be some conflicts of interest
In what regard?
with people that are on the chamber board.
Did you want to elaborate more on that?
Well, Trustee McPine, and you're an ex officio member, but I'm not
I'm not a
specifically
voting member.
addressing you. I'm addressing Ellen. So if it were I would recuse myself.
Well, I want to at least answer that. I've addressed this from the standpoint of, number one, I'm a volunteer. I pay the same as everybody else does to be a member of that. All that means with me being on the board of directors is that I'm more involved with helping plan some of the activities, but I have absolutely zero compensation whatsoever. In fact, I pay the exact same amount that every other member does. So I do not feel that there's a conflict in that regard.
Just out of curiosity, how do you volunteering versus being compensated, still being a member of it, voting for it?
Well, it's a volunteer position,
So if I'm on the Committee for National Night Out and I'm asking for grant money, I would recuse myself from voting on that because I'm on the committee to go ahead and put it on.
Sure. And I understand and I respect that. I don't feel that, I've checked it from a legal standpoint, I don't feel that impacts whether or not I can be impartial about it or not.
Any other comments?
I'd like to clarify too, from the budget perspective, I understand the comments, and next year, yeah, we are facing a deficit. This year, our general fund, it is balanced. These items were budgeted. We do have the ability to fund these events this year. I think next year, it's going to be a different story, certainly.
I would like to see us save instead of spend.
No, I certainly
Yeah.
understand that. I just want to make sure that people, board members understand, though, that too, that we have budgeted for this.
Come up to the microphone.
Just wanted to, everybody, David Miller, like Julian Contracting, and also on the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary Club. Was this something that you guys voted to put on the budget for last year,
Yes.
this money?
Probably.
Mhm.
Okay, this seems like a bait and switch to me, like you have the money there, and you don't like a project, so you want to take it away. It just doesn't seem,
We don't necessarily agree on all the projects that are on there, and we were even told, because we had this discussion at the last budget meeting, even if you don't agree with something on there, doesn't mean you have to vote for it. So we
It's
actually
something
had
I-
that discussion at the budget
I
meeting.
thought you'd discuss it last year, and same people applying for it, but seems prejudice on some of the board members. That's all.
But
Just make a comment.
Last year, the chamber was told that that was the last year they were going to be getting grant money from the village. That was by more than one trustee. And now we're back.
We were told that when, I never heard
Last
that
year.
in the meeting.
You watch the video, it's on there. So all I'm saying is that we made the deal for 10,000 last year based on the premise that there was no more grant money this year for the Main Street Fest.
But there was grant money available?
It doesn't matter if there's grant money available. The deal last year.
It kind of does, and it's just, I'm just giving my
No, it
opinion,
doesn't.
tell your opinion, but it's just budget money and taking it back away from people, no one else applied for it. Like we're not, as a chamber, taking money from some other group. Just seems kind of shady on your part, that's all. Just saying.
Well, let's not go that way.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just want to recall that I don't remember notifying the Chamber of Commerce that we wouldn't be giving
It
any,
was
we
discussed
said that the
during the
grant
meeting.
program, and I've made it very clear to the Chamber of Commerce as well that this will probably be the last year. I believe it will be the last year.
Well, and last year was supposed to be the last year.
Well, regardless of that, we have budgeted the money for it. We've gone through the process. We've gone through the committee process. This is the largest event that we have in the village of Cary. The amount of people that come into our community to utilize our services is tremendous. It's becoming very well known in the region. They're already stacking up, all the vendors, and so they're so far ahead of the game this year that hopefully that they will be able to make more money. And when Trustee Weinhammer, or was it Trustee Cavelli, had talked about the rainy day fund, just for the public's concern, the rainy day fund means that if there is an event, a storm on the day of the weekend, they will have money in the bank that they're going to still, because they still are liable for all of the services that they've contracted for. The cost of rain insurance is astronomical, and it's not worth it. We made a commitment to the village before, to the chamber with regards to this, and I think that we're not doing our community any justice by pulling, funding for our largest event that we have in town.
I just don't think the taxpayers are obligated to go ahead and fund their rainy day fund. So
But, well, I understand any money that we get in is taxpayer money, but the money that has been channeled is from the video gaming money that we took in about $65,000. Last year, we allocated $40,000 for grants.
it shouldn't matter where it comes in for. Like, we have a deficit next year, and I understand this is the budget for this year, but we still have a deficit next year. Big picture, I agree with Kim, we need to start saving.
Right, and we are taking active steps towards, every single day, we're taking steps towards the budget deficit that we're facing.
Well, and JC's just ran an event, and I'm assuming it was successful. I don't know. They didn't come here and ask us for any money, and they ran their event. Same thing, weather permitting. Listen, I don't think anyone up here would dispute it. It's not a great event. I said that wholeheartedly first thing for that reason. I do think it's a great event. It's just, I don't think the village should be paying out $8,000 toward that event. We have a huge deficit we're facing next year, and we're going to be faced with some really, really tough decisions
Right.
next year.
And on
Super
top
tough
of that,
decisions.
we have to remember, we're giving a lot of in-kind contributions with police, public works. This is $9,000, $10,000 worth of donations from the village already. So on top of that, they're asking for 8,000 more. So
I would think that the only thing about this particular event is that a lot of people do believe, they don't really look at things, whether it's being put on by the chamber, whether it's being put on by the village. I think a lot of people view this event as a village event. So I do look at it a little differently. I do have the exact same concerns as everybody should have and does have on this board, and that is fiscal responsibility and what are we going to do. The only reason that these grants, that I'm okay with it, is because we put it out to the public and we put it out to all of these organizations and asked for them to submit bids. In my opinion, we should have talked about that before we submitted that bid out and made that change and said, we're just not going to do any. But what I'm thinking is, once you send that out and you say to your residents and your organizations, hey, we have this money and we're allowing you to come in, we have 15,000 and we're going to decide how to allocate it, to pull it back, that's where the concern is to me, that I just don't think it makes it look like we're being forthright with everything. But I do understand, and I think that this will be the last year. I don't see how we can do grants any longer. I don't see that we have the resources until something changes with our revenue streams.
I mean, I think the Cary Main Street Fest is an amazing,
Sure,
event, and I volunteered there in the past, and I've gone, and it's been a really great thing. However, this isn't like a make or break for Cary Main Street Fest. They're still going to have Cary Main Street Fest. It's just that the village isn't going to be donating. So it's not that the Cary Main Street Fest won't be, going on still. It's just that they won't receive the $8,000 donation.
Well, I think that it quite,
Are you saying this is going to make or break Cary Main Street Fest?
I think if the chamber doesn't get participation from the village because we're hosting it in our downtown, what message does that send to the chamber and the community that we're pulling out of our largest event in here? And we've whittled this down. When our initial contributions to the chamber was $20,000. And then we went to $10,000. And this year they asked for 15, and we're according to what we had approved before, we're at the last committee meeting, it's down to $8,000. I think we're pretty clear on the fact that this program is going away, as our other grant programs that we have for businesses in the community.
An option for the board to consider here too, I mean, we could fund these events and just at a reduced amount. We don't have to spend the full $15,000.
I just know that, we're going to be voting on, increasing taxes here in a couple more items. And right here, we're just giving money, grant money. But in a couple more items, we're going to be voting on, increasing taxes here in the next couple minutes for water and sewer. So it's a conflict of interest. It's hard for me to swallow, when we're going to increase possibly taxes, but yet we're going to go ahead and give away $15,000.
Well,
I'm just personally saying my opinion.
I understand that, and I'd keep in mind, these are separate funds, so we're looking at that specifically as a water and sewer fund.
I think the taxpayers probably view it as,
I
one.
understand that. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on it. I mean, this is general fund revenue here, and, we have options. If we want to dial it back, like I said, we can look at dialing it back. We don't want to give the full $15,000. We have options here. I think that, these are good events here that provide value. I understand, though, the fiscal conservancy, that the board is exercising here, but there's value in these, and I think going forward that this won't be here next year. It won't.
To me, it's similar to like the facade grant stuff, where we kind of put a moratorium and so we need to step back and we need to revisit these things. And we need to make sure that when we're presenting stuff to the public, that it's accurate information. And what we're saying now is we're backpedaling and saying, yeah, we put that out there, but no, we're going to backpedal and say no. That's my concern, that I want to be able to be forthright with people and say, yes, we offered this out here. Here's who submitted for it. Here's how we broke it down. Versus I would much rather have had us pull it back before we offered it up. And we should have said, hey, we don't want to do this. And there wasn't
I
a
wasn't on the
discussion.
board at that
No,
time,
I'm just talking in general terms, Jennifer, that's how I believe you should handle things.
I think maybe some of the frustration comes from, we have prior board members who were sold that we have the funds available for this sort of thing. And we learned in the last 6 to 8 months, we don't have the funds available for this sort of thing. And that's where I'm at with it. And that's where you can claim that it's in the budget, But when it comes down to the realization that we don't have the money and we have a huge deficit, the spending has to happen.
Any other comments?
I think when you look at the big picture, though, the Cary Fall Fest kind of helps define the community. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's generating interest in the community. It gives us some identity. People want to come to Cary and experience that. And I've always seen working with the chamber as a partnership with the village in trying to put this event together. We give the in-kind with the police and the public works. And then the minimal amount of money that we are offering to the chamber to help out, I think is worth it in the overall picture for this event.
You know, sometimes they've struggled with making decisions, it being an emotional decision versus a business decision. And I want to have that feel-good feeling. I'd love to give the chamber and everybody money and feel really good about it. But on the other hand, I need to go ahead and make a business decision with finances and money and make the most responsible decision with it. And so I struggle a lot of the time with a lot of my decisions on emotional and business. And I need to remind myself constantly that this is a business decision. This isn't personal. This is about finances. And so that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, roll call, Janice, please.
And keep in mind, these are individual here, so the first one's going to be the Chamber of Commerce.
Betts,
Yes.
Costello,
No.
Cavalli,
No.
Kraus,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
No.
Call the mayor.
Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution awarding a community event grant to the Cary Soccer Association for the 2017 Cary Memorial Soccer Tournament in the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Weinhammer,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Kraus,
No.
Cavalli,
No.
Costello,
No.
Betts.
Yes.
That motion fails. I will entertain a motion to approve resolution awarding a community event grant to the Rotary Club of Cary Grove for their Cary Summer Farmers Market in the amount of $4,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to amend the motion to reduce this amount to $2,000.
I like that idea too.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to amend the amount from $4,000 down to $2,000. Roll call, please.
Costello,
No.
Kraus,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cavalli,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
No.
Okay, now I have a roll call on the amended motion to grant the Rotary Club $2,000. Roll call, please.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cavalli,
No.
Costello,
No.
Weinhammer,
No.
Betts,
Yes.
and Kraus.
Yes.
Yes.
Sonic?
And the last grant, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution awarding the community event grant to the Cary 26 Education Foundation for the 2017 Cary Shuffle 5K in the amount of $1,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? You caught up?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Cavalli,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
No.
Costello,
No.
Kraus,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance issuing a Class J liquor license to RSB Wine Bar Incorporated, doing business as Bella's Bistro Market, for the property located at 630 Northwest Highway, Cary, Illinois.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Hey, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor, Village Board. This evening's request before the board, again, is for Bella's Bistro Market. They're proposing to go into the former Dunkin' Donuts retail space in the Cary Square Shopping Center. There's two items that are on the agenda for this evening for review. The first is a Class J liquor license, and the second is their proposed gaming license. In response to the last discussion we had earlier this month, the petitioner has provided additional information, which is in your packet. I'd like to invite them up forward to present the information and answer any additional questions you may have regarding the proposal.
Hello. Thanks for letting me come back today, and I guess I picked a tough day, but this is an architectural drawing. It's a lot more organized and professional than last time. It shows every little thing that's going to be happening in there. Do you guys have it in front of you?
Yes.
Because I was concerned you guys are looking down. It shows all our dining, our storage. I think it's about 2,400 square feet. Our gaming room, which was a concern last time, is the same size. It's small. It's about 200 to 300 square feet. It's not even 10% of the whole location. I think our concept is beautiful. It'll bring more revenue to your town. We'll hopefully sell a lot of products to go and on premise. Our build-out's really expensive. It'll look cool in that corner with the exposure that we have. I'm going out of my way to go to a large unit, spend more money in rent. I just want your blessings to show you guys that this is what I'm going to produce. Okay, this is cool. This is Round Lake, but this is not Round Lake Beach. Round Lake Beach is the one that's in construction. This one was constructed a while back. I'm just not open yet. So you can see our finishings are nice. This one's not open either, but as I addressed, I have Round Lake Beach, and Bensonville. Each time I got a license, I went bigger, bigger, and bigger. So I got this license last August. There's a reason why it's not open yet, and if you guys want to ask me, I can tell you guys.
Why?
Oh, my architect got sick,
Okay.
and he got a terminal disease, but he's surviving, and I kept waiting and waiting, and then the city of Round Lake had a huge infrastructure problem. They removed some of their building department people, and then there was just a lot of lags. And this was also a year ago, so I learned my lesson. I go to a large architectural company, and I spend a lot more money now, and so if, God forbid, he gets sick, there's more employees in that company versus a one-man show. But this will be opening in August. If you guys were to wait, which I hope you don't, another 2 months, I'll have Round Lake Beach pictures, which will look like this, but it'll be double the size. But this is our concept, right? It's stone, it's beautiful lighting, seating. The shelving is the groceries and the wine bottles. But if you guys can go back to the architectural drawings for, yeah. So you see the size difference. This is it's more than double Round Lake, but we expanded on everything from our market to our groceries to our seating to our bar size. So any size that I go to, I take the same concept and I expand it or shrink it. But what we do not, as you could tell, our gaming is hidden. It's in the back. It's on your face. There's no signage. That's not why I'm here. I did everything I promised. I hope you guys can look at this beautiful large design of 2,400 square feet. And hopefully the center needs to be filled up. It's empty. Not empty, but there's 2 vacancies or 3 vacancies right about.
You had mentioned before the Round Lake, so you're going to keep the same format that's going to look exactly like that?
The colors I meant. Whenever I can go to a larger space, I'm going to add more of the groceries and more seating. So this is a much larger space than Round Lake. But I wanted to show you guys the color, like the designs. It's very trendy and cool.
Yeah, I like these pictures a lot, actually. So I appreciate you taking them and coming back with a new conceptual drawing. I have a better idea now what you're proposing. I like it.
Thank you. I'm sorry about some of that. Was a different story, and I wish that, I mean, like a businessman, we all have different concepts. So this is the concept that I'm bringing here on a larger scale.
And I agree with Trustee Cavalli. I like this concept much better. I mean, I know we're in a position to offer as many different opportunities for our residents to enjoy different things that they like. In the original one, first of all, I didn't see it fitting. It didn't make sense. Your layout didn't make sense. So this is a lot better. So this is around 1,200 square feet?
This is 2,400.
No,
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
This one is smaller. This one I signed up over a year and a half ago. It's 1,200. But you could tell, we took every corner of that and we maximize it. But I'm realizing the concept that I want to bring and the things I want to sell, even this is too small for me. So that's why in the beach, we went double than this. In Benson, we went almost to 5,000. So here we're going 2,400 because I want to work with Bob. I want to be in the center. That's his largest unit. It's a corner unit. It has a nice freezer, which I can use it for all the foods I want to carry and expand my foods.
I just still, I just have that little concern about whether it's a gambling parlor or whether it's, something else. That's just mine. It's hard to, without you having something that's close that I can look at it, as much as I like these pictures, I still have reservations.
I appreciate your honesty, but I could tell you, I'm going in a higher expensive location with much build out. So if I wanted a gambling parlor, I'd go to Carpentersville because they're just handing out gaming licenses. That's not I wouldn't survive being a gambling parlor. I really wouldn't survive. I don't have, that's not in our business plan. I want our concept to, eventually I want to franchise it and I want to become a local name where people can hang out, and we're all ages. So, I mean, anything related to gaming is secluded. You can't get in. It's hidden. It's on your face. I have children. I have a 6 and 4-year-old, and we go to Garibaldi's Pizza in Hoffman Estates, and I don't know if you guys have been there. It's really good. But they got a gaming room in the back, and there's a door and there's a buzzer. You can't get in there.
Right.
So, I mean, my kids never notice it. I notice it being a businessman, but my kids never notice it. But we go to Moretti's, it's in your face.
Right.
So ours is in the back. You can go see that drawing again.
So you're going to make it as eclectic, kind of like, I love the lofty look of it. It looks like a downtown, type of vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that idea to have something very trendy.
I
like
literally
that.
want to, that one bar area in Cooper's Hawk where they have the wine
Yeah.
barrels and they got the high boys. I really want to copy them, but make it affordable. And this will expand my food even more because I got a huge freezer, which comes with the location, so I can really go deeper into the food business. It allows me to do a lot more than I have been doing. I can evolve into more and more stuff, right?
And maybe you've answered this already, but what are the hours? Do you have any idea of what your hours are going to be? I'm just kind of curious, is this?
I would like to be open around 9 or 10 a.m.
Okay.
And I would probably close around 10 to 11 on the weekdays. And I'd be open later on the weekends. It just depends on business. I don't know what the hours of operations Kerry allows, but we're not going to be open late night or early morning. We're just going to be open standard times. On the weekends, I want to go as late as possible without going too late, but I don't know, what's your cutoff, I guess, for liquor?
Is it 1 or 2 o'clock?
Yeah, I would like to grow into that on the weekends. We can get a crowd to come in, drink our wines, hang out, watch TV, put some sports on, and be part of it, but that'll take time to grow into that.
Well, you said that, you wanted to open at 9 o'clock, and you're presenting wine and everything like that? And
We have food. That's why I want, 9 to 10, I meant, like,
So on the paperwork that we had gotten, it said from 8 until 1 in the morning.
okay, I can edit that. The paperwork you got, my admin filled out, so I just told her to keep it maximum hours, but no, I'm going to be open. No one's going to come 8 in the morning to me. I want to be open right before lunch, a little bit before, so we can get everything ready.
So that it's about 11 o'clock.
10 to 11. 10 to 11. Maybe my whole thing is if I can get a wine business and a grocery business going and the souvenir business, the novelties, that's where my to-go business is where I make my revenue. So it depends on the shoppers and the plaza. It's a really busy plaza. So people like to shop early. So it depends on the business. But I got a very curious question. Instead of asking me about the concept, I'm getting questions I never heard of about your hours. Is there something you guys are looking for? Like, I'm not open to 4 AM, or I'm not going to open at 6 AM. I'm not doing anything that's out of the ordinary, right?
Well, I think,
I think the village board's just trying to understand the
Okay,
business
okay, okay.
operation.
'Cause I've never had this type of, I mean, I've been to a couple of board meetings. It's always been, different concerns, but the hours, it's going to be, depends on my business, but you got to let me know what are hours I'm allowed to open, and then based on my business, I'm going to expand into them, right? If I can afford to.
well, I think part of the questioning that you're getting to is that this is a new business concept for us. We typically allow video gaming as an accessory to an existing business, or a new business that came into town that's going to be an accessory to their business. So
Yeah.
this, the way it was originally presented, it screamed like a Bella or a Stella's or a Dottie's, where it's more of a gaming cafe. And that's something that we have steered away from for the last 4 years. So we're looking for more, we understand that, entertainment, people want more of an experience kind of a thing. But we're just looking out to making sure that we're remaining consistent, that, moving forward, that we're going to, we get petitioners every single day calling us, asking us for this. We have existing businesses here in town that have nothing to do with food or liquor, but they want to have gaming.
Yes.
We have to be very careful as to the direction that we're going. So some of these questions are easing their minds.
Yeah, I just wanted to know where it was coming from, I guess. But I could tell you guys, if you guys look at this, I'll put it in writing, that's what I'm going to build you guys. That's a minimum. I mean, we can always make it better, right? But that's what my architect drew up. I think it shows a great concept, and you guys see the coloring I'm using and the stonework I'm using, that's going to be implied right into there. So you guys can really
Well,
visualize it.
it's much more appealing, than what you originally had shown us.
Yes. Sorry about the first time around.
Now, you said that you have, I'm sorry, Round Lake Beach and Round Lake, and you're in Summit?
I'm not in Summit. This is not in Summit. Summit is different. Summit was
So
my dad's gas station.
none of these stores, are they open at all? They're not,
Round Lake will be open in August.
it will open?
Yes, it's
but-
built
So
out,
you
no.
don't know how well this is going to work out for you?
No, but, guys, McDonald's started in this place. I mean, or actually California, I saw the movie The Founder, but someone has to start somewhere. I'm taking a risk, I'm taking a loan. I mean, if I fail, I don't want to fail, but the landlord has a nice build out, I guess, right? But I'm not open in Round Lake, no. I will be open in August, and Round Lake Beach probably September, Benson will probably October. But I'm putting my life into this, and I really believe in it
And are
because
there-
I understand retail. I used to own liquor stores. I have restaurants and my gas stations in Southern Illinois. I understand the food business, and like I said, I go to Cooper's Hawk with my wife because she spends a lot of money there. So I'm trying to get whatever knowledge I have as a retailer and putting it together.
And are there other areas that you're going to open up too? I know I had read about Wheeling.
Yeah, I'm opening. Is that a problem? Yeah.
No, I'm just asking,
yeah.
how many more are you going to want to open?
My goal is to open 10, and I want to put it on pause and then take it from there. No, 8 to 10. So you guys, there's a couple other towns that I'm working with. You probably Googled my name, and you saw that.
I Googled
Bella's
the name.
Bistro.
Exactly.
No, that's right. No, that's cool. I'm looking to put them in strategic areas.
I'd like to bring this back. Brian, I have a question for Brian. Is this a permitted use in this zoning area?
Yes.
Okay. So what we shouldn't be talking about is whether we like or not his business. We're talking about a liquor license.
Correct. The request
Okay.
this evening is a liquor license. And
So the petition is for a liquor license. So it's not about what he's already approved for his business. If he doesn't want a liquor license, he can operate there.
Well, he can't have gaming without a liquor license, so you have the
Well,
liquor
that's
license
another
first.
issue, the gaming, right, Mayor?
So he said if he can't get the gaming, he's not going to move forward. That's why we put it in this order.
Okay, but what I'm saying is we need to be talking about the liquor license, which then, translates to the gaming and not whether we like his business or not, because we have no say in that. It's approved already, right, Brian?
From a market or deli standpoint, the use is permitted in the district. Specifically, the liquor license is what the board has the authority to approve is the number of licenses that are issued in the village. This would be a request to increase that number for the Class J licenses by additional one for this business.
Okay.
And then if that's approved, the gaming application license would be in relation to a business that had the liquor license, which would also be for this establishment.
Okay. And my only question pertaining to the liquor license is, do we clear up the citizenship question issue?
Yeah, Director Simmons can respond to that.
Yeah, from the application standpoint, that question was not filled out because it's not a sole proprietorship. There's an LLC, so it didn't apply to this application, but the petitioner is from the United States.
That's all I have.
My only hesitation is what I mentioned before, is just with Breaking Bread being next door, and I had reached out to the owners of Breaking Bread before. I think that it looks like a nice concept, but I just don't like the location of it. So that's my only concern, which I mentioned before last time.
I understand. I think our clientele will be different, but I understand your concern. I respect that.
Any other discussion here? Roll call, please.
So this is on a liquor license.
Just the liquor license, yep.
Counselor,
Yes.
Kraus,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Betts,
No.
Weinhammer,
No.
Mayor.
Yes. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance to stamp, oh, I'm sorry. That's. I just flipped it, sorry.
The same.
Yeah. I will entertain a motion to approve the video gaming license for RSB Wine Bar Incorporating, doing business as Bella's Bistro Market, located at 630 Northwest Highway, Cary, Illinois.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions regarding gaming? Roll call, please.
Betts,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
No.
Kraus,
No.
Counselor,
No.
That the video gaming portion fails.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me a chance to talk to you guys.
If you have any follow-up questions, talk to Brian.
I will. When I get my other locations open, I'll come back to you guys and show you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance establishing water and sewer rates annually through April 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Michael?
At the last committee of the whole meeting, we had a pretty lengthy discussion related to the Trilogy 5-year water and sewer rate study. Tonight, we have the ordinance in your packet asking or seeking an annual increase to the water and sewer rates of 5% a year, starting next fiscal year, running through, I think it is fiscal year 23. I apologize, I think that date on the agenda is incorrect.
Yeah, we've updated here before the village board. There's an updated ordinance that's before you here with the corrected dates.
I probably would, one comment I'd like to make is, there's a couple primary reasons that we're looking for this increase going forward over the 5-year period. Number one, there's been, over the last 5 years, since the last water rate study, 12% decrease in consumption within the village of Cary. And going forward, we're predicting further decreases in the consumption. Aside from that, we have two fairly large, very sizable capital improvement projects. $3.5 million phosphorus project for our sewer system. And a couple years down the road, we're looking to replace a well that has an estimated cost of a little over $2 million. That is pretty much driving what the bulk of the increase in the water rate study is. The other thing we've done over this 5-year period is stabilize the village's reserves. So hopefully going forward, we'll continue to remain at this level and we should be in good shape going forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to make a motion to amend this to have the 5% increase through 2020. That would be 2 years of the 5% increase. And after discussing with Michael and Eric and Jake this morning, it just seems reasonable having annual reviews of what is occurring with the water usage and the whole budget, that we can, whatever board is in place in 2 years, can review this at that time and then make a decision whether to continue with the 5% increases or not. But 5% increases from here on out for 5 years is a lot. And I think we need to pause after a couple of years and reevaluate that. But this way, I'm supporting what Eric wants. He gets his 5% increase for the next 2 years, and then we just reevaluate after that. I'd
So
like
you're
a
making a
second.
motion to,
Yes.
to 2020?
Yes.
Can we still have a discussion before the motion? Or we make the motion and then,
Oh, we'll make a motion to change it, then we can go into discussion about this.
If someone would like to second the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Betts,
Yes?
Costello,
Yes.
Cavalli,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Weinhammer.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Jennifer, questions?
I didn't have questions. I just wanted to kind of share, Jim and I and Eric and Michael and Jake had met this morning. And, initially I had said, how come you guys didn't plan for this? I'm just not understanding. I wasn't on the board before. And from my understanding, it was something that was legally required, correct me if I'm wrong about anything that I'm saying, with the EPA. And that this is something that you couldn't have planned for, you couldn't have foreseen. And so this is why we're at where we're at currently. I also asked what the increase would be every single year to the residents. You guys had said it would be 3%, cost of living, adjustment and things like that every year. So it's a 2% increase, on top of the 3%. So it made me understand it better, and I'm just trying to share my thoughts on, how I came to decide and figure out, what I decided, because initially I was frustrated, so.
The phosphorus project that Michael referred to, that was the one that was unfunded. That was an unfunded mandate that we were required to do. That cost is, approximately $3 million, substantial cost here to the Village of Cary that wasn't included in our last study here.
If I could just expand on that a little bit. The initial 5-year water rate study was done in 2012. From that last water rate study, the decision that was made at that time when that study was approved was to draw down the cash reserves that we had and fund the capital improvements that were called for during that 5-year period. And in order to ensure that, there were 3% annual increases going forward. In the third year, I believe it was in the third year of that initial 5-year study, Public Works received a mandate from the EPA that improvements needed to be made to our sewer plant. Those improvements cost in excess of $3.5 million. That $3.5 million was never, ever figured into the capital costs for that initial 5-year study. We had to react to that, and in order to do that, what we did is added that cost into this 5-year window to figure out a reasonable plan of action to move forward. The 5-year rates that we have come up with provides for adequate reserves, not only for operating expenses and capital expenses, but adequate reserves to fund the debt that we are looking to incur this year for the $3.5 million sewer project and $2 million 3 years from now for a well. If in fact we only secure or have a rate structure in place that comes up with a 5% increase for 3 years, in all honesty to you, I'm not sure what impact that might have on our application that we will need for an EPA loan to fund the second project in the third year. because we have to demonstrate the ability to not only continue to fund the reserves, but to have a positive cash flow to fund future capital improvements beyond the 5-year window. So I appreciate the concern of wanting to scale back that increase. It's just based on finding that out now, I'm not sure how that would factor into our actual cash flow and loan structure.
I appreciate that statement. That's exactly what I thought you would say. I don't know, and maybe Eric can answer to that, but the fact of the matter is we're not saying no, we're giving you everything you want if this would pass, except for let's review it after 2 years,
I think the ability to cover the debt from the 2 capital projects, the model is basing that ability to demonstrate that on the full 5-year rate plan. I think I would like to say that we should have
the other bonds are getting paid off.
We should have, factoring that in as well. I believe if
That's what I was getting at here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would recommend that maybe Trilogy run the model to show the actual impacts and let us know the actual impacts on our EPA loan application. If we're to go 3 years or 2 years at the recommended rate, and just in case, if that decision is made at that time to not maintain that 5%, say we're to go lower or none, what the impacts would be to the standing applications. I just want to make sure that you have the full information in front of you when you make that decision and know the full implications.
I can tell you from the models that I've looked at the end of 3 years, based on the 5% going in, at the end of year 3, there still would have been negative cash flow. So the question going forward will be, if in fact it's only a 3% increase going forward, does that provide enough cash flow to make it positive? And I don't know that standing in front of you this evening that I could answer that question and know with certainty that I was giving you the correct answer.
And building upon that, we obviously are looking at a 5-year rate analysis, and we typically do a 5-year projection for all capital improvements. One of the things that we've begun doing now at this point, as far as smart planning for the long haul, and especially given the fact that water and sewer infrastructure has a different kind of shelf life than your typical buildings and other operational features, we've tried to begun doing a 15-year plan out, just so we know how these different things map out based on industry standard life cycles, things like water tower painting, which can vary between $5,000 to $800,000 a piece, well treatment system replacements, the first of which for well 10, which was built in the early 80s. That's that $2 million project. So it's obviously approaching, and in this case is going to be exceeding its life expectancy in the near future. What we're trying to do is make sure that we have the plan in place for the long haul so that we can spread out those significant costs, like especially these well treatment facility replacements, so that we don't have more than one of them show up in a single 5-year period, again, to minimize the impact to the customers and the taxpayers and spread out the impacts of those costs. So one of the impacts would be, I guess, to not have the 5% for those last couple of years would be the impact for the reserve balances. And then moving forward, I guess our ability to hit the next major capital projects that are planned in the next 5-year window, which will be at least one treatment system and facility replacement in one of the wells, and I believe a tower painting. So we do have other things that we know of down the road that we need to plan for. Obviously, we can tackle it different ways. We can try to minimize and spread out and give a consistent rate increase to people so they know how to budget for what they're looking at. They know what to plan for from a monthly, or with our utility billing here, a bi-monthly perspective. Or we can try to minimize it early on, but just knowing that there will be an increased risk or likelihood of significant spikes in future rate studies in order to maintain the existing infrastructure we have.
Eric, I
beyond
understand.
the capital projects.
You're doing a very good job of explaining all that, and I understand all that.
Sure.
And I appreciate it, and I'm not up here trying to rail against you guys. I'm on board, all
No,
right? We had a good discussion today, and I'm trying to accommodate you and meet the needs of the town with the infrastructure. I guess, and this is going to be a very tough question, for the federal government loan that we're theoretically applying for this, the 1.75% fine, whatever it is, do they specifically say you need a 5-year rate structure?
They specifically say that you have to demonstrate the ability to cover the costs for that loan, which in turn means you have to have an established way to pay back that loan.
Okay.
So typical means for a municipality would be to establish a long-term rate structure to guarantee and understand and know what that revenue is going to be like at a minimum.
Okay.
Can I make one other point?
Yeah.
If I might, just based on, I guess, what would be my own concern. Let's talk about it in a different manner and see if it makes any difference. I think when we calculated what this 5% increase would be to a resident who consumes $65,000 or 65,000 gallons of water over the course of the year. There are families who use considerably less than those 65,000 gallons. There are probably families who use more. That's pretty much the average or the basis that we use. For every resident out there who uses that 65,000 gallons, this 5% increase going forward for a 5-year period amounts to $4 per bi-monthly bill, or $2 a month if you looked at it on a monthly basis, but of course our bills are bi-monthly. So Trustee Kostler, under your scenario, we'd have the first 3 years of the 5-year increase, so the $4 per bi-monthly bill wouldn't be an issue. I guess what we're talking about here is, can we afford that $4 6 times a year for the remaining 2 years? Now, from a financial standpoint, or from my standpoint, and please, I'm not somebody who's paying that bill here every 2 months. I know that based on our water and sewer system, which we have right now, that currently that system is probably 65, 66% fully depreciated, which means it's probably at portions of it at its estimated life. I can almost guarantee going forward that we will continue to have capital improvements similar to what we're looking at now, hopefully less than the 2 major projects that we're looking at in this. But I wouldn't, from my standpoint, I'd much rather look at it on a level basis and have people know what that rate's going to be, and it's going to be consistent, and that I don't get to the end of the 5-year window, and because I have additional capital improvements, now have to raise it 15%. And I think that's why when we developed the model, we were happy, or we were pleased with what we were able to put together, making sure all the factors we needed to be concerned about were covered.
I think, and I understand where you're coming from here, Trustee Kostler, and just in reviewing this, I think we'd be making a short-sighted decision by, tightening it up here. I mean, we've got a plan for 5 years to help fund, our projects going forward. We got a lot of projects coming down, the pipe as far as, infrastructure, water and sewer projects go. We've got a funding plan that is in place here. And our consultant has provided us information that the Village of Cary is still going to be one of the lowest, payers of water and sewer rates here in the whole area. I think we compared it against 10 or 12 other communities within the surrounding area. And so I do feel that, the full 5% for 5 years is the appropriate solution for the Village of Cary to ensure that we're still providing reliable and quality service to our customers.
I understand that. I just want the ability for the people to have a say in 2 years. That's all. And the board should be able to reevaluate. And that's all I'm saying. I didn't say I was totally against everything, but the people should have a say in 2 years whether the rates go up again.
And I can appreciate that. When we know this stuff is coming down, one of the things that Trustee Weinhammer mentioned is that it was a little frustrating to not understand why didn't we know these things or when she was coming into it. Well, we do know it. So now we have to take a proactive approach. And if what we need in order to get that funding for the special financing is to have a 5-year plan that says we have it in place to be able to pay it back, then it sounds like that's really the approach that we should go with. Looking at it, again, anytime we have an increase, we certainly want to be very careful and meticulous about what are we passing on and do we need to do it? Is it really something that we need to do? Is it a need versus a want? This is something that we need to do. So based upon what you're telling me, I believe we need to go with the 5-year program.
I just have a question regarding the unfunded mandate. Are there any grants out there for any of that stuff?
This is the low-interest loan, I believe, is
Okay, that's the
their
only
answer to
option.
the question, yeah.
Correct, yeah, there's not a great pool of money for these types of improvements, which is why the IEPA does offer these low-interest loans.
Okay.
As Mr. Ducharme mentioned, they're far below market rate,
Right.
so it is a very cost-effective way, well beyond any other borrowing means the village would have to get these projects funded. The EPA does obviously periodically add these different requirements. Now it's phosphorus. It's likely there will be others down the road. They typically come in cycles where they give communities time to make those improvements to meet the previous project before the next ones are released. But one would wonder why there's the pool of money available through the state for these projects. Obviously, it's their way of making them more attainable, or making them attainable and physically possible for utilities to achieve the mandates.
And just so I'm clear, in order for us to get this low-interest loan, it is recommended that we go with this 5-year plan in order to obtain this low-interest loan. Is that correct?
Yes, the Trilogy Consultants has run the numbers, and this 5% rate structure for 5 years will provide us with the basis for, one, maintaining our rainy day funds, our reserves at the recommended levels for anything unexpected operationally, like having to pull a deep well and repair a motor like we just had to do in Well 4 recently. And all the other operational costs. Commodities tend to go up every year as well. It covers that. And it also provides us with the balance and the funding for the loan process to show that we can actually pay back the debt for the phosphorus project and also the other well project that is going to be needed. That one's not an unfunded mandate. That's just a vital piece of infrastructure that is reaching the end of its life and needs to be replaced.
Is that was a yes in there, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I know no one likes to look at increases on these things, but, this board and previous boards have been very fiscally responsible. We've maintained our tax levy has been flat for the last 4 years. This is a business enterprise that we have. We're providing a much-needed service to our residents. We're being proactive. We've engaged the right people. We have the right staff guiding us in what we need to do. Trilogy has helped us before. They've helped us this time around. We need to be ready. I mean, this isn't like a transmission on one of our snowplows blowing out. If we have an issue with something, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. And we have to be able to have funds available to make these necessary repairs because they happen. Just like Well House 4, is that right now? That it needs hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of repair. And if we don't continuously add to our funds to keep these wells and the treatment center running, we're going to find ourselves in a real bind. And what helped me sold me on this is that we are one of the lowest water rates in our area. I mean, Fox River Grove is substantially higher than we are. Crystal Lake is almost 3 times as high as we are. So we are getting the residents here a good bang for their buck. We're looking at everything we do, and we're being fiscally responsible by being proactive by looking at the future maintenance needs that we have. So, anybody else have any comments? Jeff, did you have anything?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, I found it interesting that it was something that you guys couldn't plan for. So that was, why I was wondering why we didn't plan for it, so.
All right, I have an amended motion on the floor to amend to 2020 I need a roll call on that.
So
If you
we'll
vote
just make
yes,
sure. Okay, thank
if you
you.
vote yes, that means you want to amend it to just have a 2-year increase. If you vote no, that means we'll go back to the original motion where it'll be the 5 years. Is everybody clear on that? Roll call, please.
Kraus,
No.
McAlpine,
No.
Cavalli,
No.
Betts,
No.
Weinhammer,
No.
Cossler,
Yes.
Okay, we'll go back to the original motion where, for the 5-year rate study. You ready for another roll call? Okay.
all right, Cossler,
No.
Betts,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cavalli,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
Thank you. This next motion is directly correlated to what we just discussed. This is approving staff to go after the funds. So I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the Village of Cary, McHenry County, Illinois, to borrow funds from the Water Pollution Control Program from the wastewater treatment plant Phase 1 improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this?
No.
Roll call, please.
Betts,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
Cavalli,
Yes.
Cossler,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving to Administrator's Report. Jacob, you have anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Village Board, we've got through a fair amount of stuff the last few meetings. Wondering if everyone would be okay if we canceled the July 5th meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. We'll give you a break, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Department heads, Chief, you have anything for us? Eric?
Just one thing for you, just update on our 2017 road program. As you may have seen, the contractor has been busy with the resurfacing of various roads that are budgeted in this year's program. The contractor currently has finished up all the work for resurfacing to the final layer of asphalt on High Road and Forest Lane up in Bright Oaks. And they just finished up, I believe today, the surface on the western half of Cimarron. So right now it's under binder, so they have one layer to go on the rest of Cimarron and all of Georgetown. AT&T has cleared out their work on utility relocation, so we'll also be able to start the work on the turn lane on Georgetown at the new Sage Products entrance for that access point. So right now the project appears to be on or slightly ahead of schedule, so we're still looking to probably finish up in midsummer and we'll move forward. This week also, the annual crack filling program began. So on various streets around town, we're using a contractor to route out and fill in the cracks with a material just to prevent water penetration into the asphalt surfaces. And upcoming, we'll have pavement patching and the pavement rejuvenator program. So I'll get more information at a future meeting, but those are being scheduled with the contractors to hopefully start up in mid to late summer.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Mary, do you have anything for us? Brian? Thank you. Any future agenda items and discussion by the village board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute recess.